There was a time when the 300 most elite soldiers of Sparta, a city legendary for the bravery of its men, faced a challenge unlike any other. This is not the story of the Battle of Thermopylae. This is the story of the lesser-known Battle of the 300 Champions, when the honor of Sparta rested on its deadliest warriors. Let's place ourselves around 546 BC in southern ancient Greece. In the Peloponnese Peninsula, two powerful polis, or city-states, are engaged in a relentless struggle for total hegemony over the region. On one side, there is the powerful and well-established city of Argos. On the other side, there is Sparta, a city that makes war its way of life and is unwilling to yield to its rival. This endless conflict has persisted for centuries, dating back at least to 669 BC, when, at the Battle of Thyrea, Argos managed to defeat Sparta. However, although Argos seems to be winning the military struggle against Sparta, the Spartans continue to develop and are becoming an ever greater threat. Now, the latest cause of dispute between the two cities is Thyrea, a territory with a vast and fertile plain that both poleis wish to control. Sparta has just occupied it, but the Argives, the inhabitants of Argos, are not going to give it up without a fight. Quickly, their army reaches the lands of Thyrea, where they encounter the Spartan army. Once face to face, to avoid a bloodbath, the two battalions reach an unprecedented agreement. Only the 300 best men from each side will face each other on the battlefield, and the victor will gain control of the lands of Thyrea. Furthermore, to avoid the temptation to intervene in the combat, the rest of the two armies will withdraw from the area, not seeing what happens while the 600 chosen ones confront each other. Thus, once all the preparations were made, hostilities began. The two elite forces clashed, determined to achieve victory, but the skill of both groups was so evenly matched that it was impossible to gain a decisive advantage. The fighting was fierce, and it lasted all day. Neither side was willing to yield an inch of ground. Gradually, the bodies of those magnificent hoplites began to darken the scene of the conflict. Finally, as the sun set, only two men remained standing. They were the Argives Chromios and Alcinor. Considering themselves winners, they quickly withdrew to inform the bulk of their army of the feat they had just accomplished. However, they made a fatal mistake. Perhaps due to extreme fatigue or the desire to convey the news to their comrades as soon as possible, they did not realize that a Spartan, although badly wounded, still lay alive on the battlefield. His name was Othryades. Almost unable to move, summoning his remaining strength and leaning on some splintered spears, Othryades got up. Then, as was common in ancient Greece, using the weapons of the fallen enemies, he erected a small trophy as a sign of victory. With his own blood, he wrote, "To Zeus, guardian of trophies." After what happened, both sides considered themselves winners. The Argives because they had more survivors, and the Spartans because their man had been the last to leave the battlefield, having also erected a trophy as a sign of his success. In the end, surprisingly, failing to reach an agreement, everything ended precisely in the way it had been tried to avoid, that is, with a full-scale battle between both armies. In this confrontation, the Spartans finally achieved a clear victory. This event marked the beginning of the end for Argos in its long dispute with Sparta. From then on, Sparta proved to be far superior to the Argives, defeating them on multiple occasions and gaining hegemony over the Peloponnese Peninsula. The most important of these occasions was the Battle of Thyrea in 494 BC, where the Spartan army, led by the ruthless king Cleomenes, annihilated the Argives. This annihilation occurred because, when the Argive soldiers were already retreating and seeking refuge in a sacred temple of Argos, Cleomenes did the unthinkable, ordering the sanctuary to be set on fire, thus violating the sacred laws of temple protection. Such an event is considered one of the greatest demographic disasters of any battle in ancient Greece, as it is estimated that 6,000 Argives lost their lives, which meant wiping out almost an entire generation of men in the city of Argos. Many years would pass before Argos and Sparta faced each other again, this time in the Peloponnesian War. In that conflict, the Spartans again prevailed over the Argives both at Mantinea in 418 BC and, interestingly, at the Second Battle of Thyrea in 417 BC, where, 252 years later, Sparta took revenge at the same place where Argos had inflicted that initial defeat on them in 669 BC. Regarding Othryades, the sole Spartan survivor of the Battle of the 300 Champions, the chronicles say that, ashamed of not having found death alongside his comrades, he took his own life before returning to Sparta. However, some modern scholars interpret this event differently, arguing that, knowing he would soon die due to the severity of his wounds, Othryades decided to commit suicide sooner, simply so that the Argives could not claim victory. Be that as it may, beyond the epic nature and the great sacrifice made by both sides, the Battle of the 300 Champions shows us how, in war, the perception of victory can be as crucial as victory itself.